Welcome to the Amplified CEO with VC and serial entrepreneur Richard Stroupe. With today's guest, Daniel Summers. He's the CEO and founding partner of Electronic Lab Logs. It's a cloud-based platform built to help labs reduce errors, streamline operations, and stay compliant.
Daniel, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we met on via Jim Roberts.
We did. Yeah.
Jim Roberts. So are you super connected with his group and what he does as far as the meetings down in Wilmington?
Yeah, I am. I can't help but be once you're in. If you're not there, you even get called out. Thanks, Jim. No, it's been great. I do as many of the events as I can, and I'm not naturally like an extrovert kind of person, so I have to do things like that to keep connected and stay connected. So
it's good that you have somebody like a champion for people like us.
Oh, for sure.
Business owners and investors to kind of come in and network and learn from one another. Because I mean, like you said, we get very siloed in our work, and whether we're extroverted or introverted, it's we need a reason to come out of the house, especially when you have family obligations.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can get lost and get in for right reasons. You have a lot to get done, or you have whatever. So it's good to stay connected and stay, go to the meetings and get different perspectives. Like the one thing I really appreciate about his events and others like it, or, you'll get more sometimes from like a plumber than you will a software guy. I'm a software guy, but I'd get more from perspective from like a fencing guy or whatever, from industries you wouldn't expect, I would say. Yeah. And so that's kind of the cool thing that you get. So yeah. I've enjoyed it and enjoyed Jim's events and his connecting us to you. So it's been great.
It's been great. And speaking of plumbers, I attended this meetup of real estate professionals.
Did you really?
At the CIE. It was a couple weeks ago. They invited me to do a presentation. Okay. And very interesting, because you get to meet not only the finance people, but you meet contractors, you meet flippers, you meet investors. From all walks of life. There must have been like 70, 80 people there.
I did not know. Did you know my wife was in real estate?
No.
Oh, yeah. No. So she sells real estate. So pretty cool time for us. I've been doing my business. She's been building hers. So Jennifer Summers' real estate team. So she has a team. And she's always done real estate her whole career, but has recently, branched off. So she hangs her license with Keller Williams and that. Okay. Yeah. And so so she's in that world too.
Okay. Yeah. So does she service all of Wilmington area?
Yeah, the whole coast, especially, and Southport, the whole area. Yeah. So the coast is her specialty, and she does well. She has a great team of some young, energetic gals that help her sell as well, guys and gals, I should say. And it's been great. So
real estate,
fun and challenging on its own level.
For
she
sure.
has
especially
different
in today's interest rate
challenges. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But this market's always
a cool market.
It's always very energetic and hot with the beach properties and things.
Yeah, so we've enjoyed that world. And actually, when we first came in, we had talked about here in Hampstead, and we found really everywhere we've lived has been to her credit, and her finding good spots and cool properties and that sort of thing. So it's been awesome.
No, it's great. You're from Georgia.
Georgia originally, Okay. So I grew up in a town called Pike County, So it's south of Atlanta. We're tucked between like Macon and Atlanta, right below the racetrack area. So Pike County, Georgia, kind of a rural, small high school I grew up in, and I was one of six, so we were a big Catholic, 6 children family. Awesome, fun time, and so I grew up in Georgia, and then had fun learning like hard work and construction industry through my father. He kind of taught me that, and then eventually went into software in Georgia also. So as I was like learning construction and all that, I was also like, man, I don't know that this is what I want to do for a living, So eventually, grateful for the work ethic that was learned, all of that. But I remember the day I was in, this is a true story. I was in Georgia digging like in the red clay of Georgia. If anybody knows, I was digging footings for this huge concrete tilled up building. And I was thinking, and that was my senior year in high school, just gotten into learning computers. And I was like, this is interesting. And I was like, this is not what I want to do for a living. I think this computers thing is a great idea. So I went, that's officially when I was like, I'm going to go this route.
Okay.
So then I took a job with a company called Flightline Software, which was my first foot into the software world.
Okay.
And that was, they did like bidding software for flight attendants and pilots and that sort of thing. So did that and was super lucky to really grow into that career through great mentors and connections there that eventually brought me to where I am now. So, yeah.
So did your dad own his own construction company?
Well, he did. He always did. He was originally like a brick mason, right? So he started there. They moved from Pennsylvania to Georgia and had me and the other kids here in Georgia.
Okay.
So my two oldest were born in Pennsylvania, and then my sister, me, my brother, my other sister, we were all born in Georgia. And he did construction, moved into eventually big tilt up concrete buildings and eventually large commercial stuff. But that's really what he does now, later stage in life. But at the time, it was everything from big commercial, whatever was he was involved was all hard work and commercial construction. So that's what we learned, and it was great. I loved it.
So even at an early age, he got you guys up and said, let's go to the site. And,
well, it was also his way. He was a great dad. It was his way of connecting with each of us. So we all took turns going to work with dad, And so for the girls, it was like, you'll sweep or you'll do whatever. Yeah. For me and my brother, I mean, we worked, and so a lot of it was, holding the hammer, holding the tape measure, whatever, but eventually we were real working. And my brother, fast forward today, he has a real successful electrical contracting company, commercial, and dad's still in the industry, and I went the software route. So,
Well, are you the only one in the family that went to the software route?
I am. Okay. Yeah. Everybody else, I'm the only software person.
What professions are your other brothers and sisters? You
said
your brother's an electrician.
Yep. Yeah. So from the oldest to the youngest, my oldest sister is very artistic, and she's always designed like purses and that sort of thing. Really good with that sort of stuff and design. My second sister, Marcia, who I mentioned is coming to town this week. Excited to see her. She's a mom of 4 kids. Her and her husband live in South Georgia on the border, and they're like a Chick-fil-A family. So he owns a Chick-fil-A there, and they're awesome. Then my other sister is also in Georgia, and so she travels with her husband in RV life. So they live that life and homeschooled their youngest now. Yeah, he's about to leave, and then I'm here with my wife and my oldest, my only son. He's 17 years old, or about to be 17. And then my brother is in Georgia also. He has a couple kids, and then my youngest was in the Navy, so she's the only one offshore. So she's over in the UK now, and like south of London, on the coast with her husband there. So spread out, but it's awesome. Yeah,
it's always interesting because I love to talk to entrepreneurs and successful ones who've had some mentorship early on, and it's either a family member. Almost every person we've talked to has says either it was an aunt, uncle, mom, dad, somebody there provided that inspiration and kind of the early steps of, this is kind of how to work as a
it's my dad 100%. Yeah. Well, on multiple fronts. So like he was a hard worker, first of all, always modeled that, always took care of us, always provide. It was great in that respect. Taught me hard work, as I said.
Right.
But what was interesting is as I went into software, and later he was still in the construction industry, he started doing software for him. Yeah. And so he built his own site for the clients he was managing to check up on his site. It was really cool. It was like before Facebook was really a thing and posting. And I was like, man, this could be something. Yeah. So it was fun. He literally would hard code HTML, and do that. So that was my launch pad into software for sure. And then getting into that and connecting with the folks in Fayetteville, Georgia, and in that kind of software world, and getting into the startup scene, hopping from contract to contract was awesome. I loved it. So,
and how many years did you do that?
My whole career. So I started, it's been 20 plus years now. Okay. So I've done everything from, like I said, the pilot software to different, websites and front end, like when Flash design was a big thing. I learned all of that. So I was kind of a toggle between front end and back end development.
Right.
But then I eventually started doing more startup stuff. So we did a big competitor to Zoom, which was my a conferencing company, the Conference Group. That was a real fun project. Before that was a guy who was starting a sport. So he was doing a social media platform around that. So it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But then eventually my friend talked me into LabLogs, which became, what it is today.
So your company LabLogs, that's the first company that you've launched.
That's my first, my official company. I mean, I had like software, small website, but my first real company launch was LabLogs. And that was, it started, a friend of a friend who had, you always have, and if you're in software, you have everybody who's like, hey, I have an idea for an app. And you're like,
exactly.
And so you're like, we'll have a coffee, whatever.
Right.
Well, this was another one of those, a friend of a friend who was like, hey, I think you might have something here. You might want to hear him out. He worked at the hospital and he was a lab guy. And he explained that, they have still a lot of paper processes for tracking all of their quality control documents, all of their compliance data, really. So he asked me if I could build him a software that he could put on a disk and use. That's what he said, literally. And I was like, well, we could do software a little differently than that. But I couldn't believe it was such a shared need across the whole industry. And, fast forward, in healthcare, sometimes there's pockets that are just a little bit behind in technology. And I think the lab was one of them.
Is that because of like regulations and laws?
A lot of it's regulations, 100%. And a lot of it is we're still coming off the heels of the requirement of like EHR data, the mandate from, say what you will about some of the Obamacare type stuff. But one of the things that came out of it with the mandate for, your electronic medical records was really good. Right. But people came kicking and screaming, because we all see the benefits now, but it was a lot of work. And so that's come far. And there's still a lot of issues, but this come really far. The lab hasn't really gotten there on the compliance side. So there's a lot of what we track specifically is you have to prove that your tests are accurate, right? How do you do that? You say, we know that they're accurate because we tested all the equipment regularly. We trained all our people on how to test it regularly, and we have proof of all that. That's what we track.
Okay.
Currently, that's all done on paper. We do it electronically. So if you start doing that electronically, you can see where that goes, right? So you have a bunch of good data. You also have at scale management stuff that the C-suite really appreciates and can benefit from. So we kind of struck gold in that sense on the data side.
Right.
It was, can we make this a business, right? And so luckily we were able to do that. We partnered with some folks that eventually helped us do that.
So the data that you're collecting and monitoring, is it on the equipment or the samples, like for example blood work, or all the above?
Great question. And it's a very common question. We don't do anything PHI, so all the results is what you would typically think of when you think of what you're testing on equipment. Is true. The whole point is you test somebody's blood or whatever sample to get a result. We don't deal with that data. We deal with, when you did that, how do you know that result was real? Well, you know that because in order for this machine to correctly calculate your hemoglobin, you have to run QC, a positive and a negative, twice a day. And we record that you do that. The person that did it was trained properly. They have documentation of that. And so we have a suite of your compliance data in the lab. The catch is, why does this matter? Well, of course it matters. We all want real things, but they have to prove it, or else you'll literally get fined, even shut down as a lab if you're not doing this stuff. So it's real important. And lab techs get it. They understand why it's important. And they actually, in a lot of ways, love the process of documentation of it. So,
very interesting.
It's very cool. I had no idea what I was getting into. I thought a lab was a lab, but it's a cool world, and I've really enjoyed it. And so it's cool to see where it's come and where it's going.
So I imagine this is applicable to other, for example, academic research institutions that are doing analysis on samples, not medical, but could be something different, like chemical, or even in law enforcement, like your DNA type stuff.
Yeah, like chain of command, chain of custody stuff, rather. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the early days, we did the shotgun blast where it was really whoever would give us money, we'd take it. If you're you want to be a client of ours, sure. And so the truth of it is we're trying to find our market, and it is pretty applicable almost everywhere, right? So anything clinical data, so anything that touches patient testing, really that's our sweet spot. So when people think big lab stuff, they think PPD, like all of these like clinical trials. We actually do a lot of that too. But where we shine is in the late stage because you're now into clinical. So in the early stages, when you're testing processes, you're documenting your logbooks, all that, that's a whole different can of worms. We care about you're on the patient side now. Are you sure you're doing everything right? Because it matters now, right? So that's where we come in. So one of our biggest, clients to date is we work with St. Jude and some of our other big cancer research. So there's a lot of that. We have a lot of academic research labs, both university labs and other. So it's applicable everywhere. But again, where we started was back of the hospital labs, reference labs, like your send outs that you would send off to other private labs. That's where we started. But we kind of spray it all as far as the market is concerned.
So once you've identified a need and you met a friend of a friend who said, hey man, we could really use your help over here. What was the next step to build like your MVP to get some early validation? Yeah.
So this is where the journey began, right? Well, so the early days we're sitting around and we're dreaming, right? And saying, is this real? Like, is there something to this? And so I remember the day where we all sat in the living room and you talked out and there was something to it. And finally we realized, okay, there is something to it, but how the heck do we do it? We need some help, right? So we reached out to another gentleman that was a friend of a friend, still a partner to date, Randy Long. And he helped really guide us in the early days on how do you form a company, right? How do you do the bylaws? How do you everything, right? And he was instrumental in helping us get there and connecting us with others that were there. And so one of the first things he did with us is we put the company together, partnered with it, and we got somebody to really do full market research to make sure we weren't wasting our time. Right. And see, is there really something here? And there were legs, we found out there was something to it. And I'll never, so practically how it started was I'll never forget the conversation where we were in our co-working space and I brought Randy and our other Jeremy Sikorsky. He's the one who started this thing with me from day one. And he and I sat down with our other friend, Josh Harkis. There was the four of us starting the company. And I shared the software because I'm a software guy. Of course, I'm going to build the prototype, right? I'm going to build the MVP and show that it works. And so I walked them all through a demo and me and Jeremy are glowing and we're like, oh my gosh, and so we all high five, we shut it down. I'm literally like turning the lights back on and we're about to walk out. And Randy says to me, he's like, oh, that's great. I was like, what do you think kind of attitude? And he's like, it's going to be great. It's going to be interesting to see if we can turn it into a company. And I said, Randy, did you not just watch? I just showed you it works. And he's like, no, I mean the company. And I was like, oh, it was a complete reframe for me because I was like, oh, I didn't think about the structure and all the stuff I didn't think about, right? So I very much went into this not knowing what I didn't know. Probably a good thing, right? That I went in a little bit blind. It protected me, but it was good. I had great partners along the way. He and others that we brought on a seed round early on, and so we raised the seed round first to help get us to the kind of the next phase of the business, which was taking my MVP and really making it a real product. We brought in a CTO to help me do that, really make it enterprise ready. I had not done anything that full scale yet. I could architect it. He could really build it. We built it for a couple of years and then ran it in Jeremy's lab here, actually in New York. So he had at the time moved back to New York. We ran our beta in his 3 labs in New York. So that was our test case, right? That was our pilot.
And you launched it here from Wilmington? Or?
Well, we built it here in Wilmington, And so our company's still here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Jeremy at the time was here in Wilmington. He's now in upstate New York. But we're based out of here. We have a lot of remote workers too, but our sales team and success team is here locally in North Carolina.
How big is your team?
We're still quite small, which is great, but we're also growing. So we have a team of 8 full-time employees and about 10 contractor R&D folks.
Yeah.
And so, 18-ish or so. But we're also excited that we're at the phase where we've recently raised an A round. So I told you we did a seed round, then we recently raised an A round with new partners of ours, Rockmont, who led that round. That gave us the ability to kind of scale, so that we're in the stage of like, hey, we figured out the market. We brought on a VP of sales, Matt Kennedy, who's been amazing to help us figure out, okay, what do we have here and how do we make this sales process repeatable, right? And we're in an exciting time where we're building that up, and we have good, happy, referenceable customers that we can point to.
That's great.
And do that. Yeah.
After you built your MVP and you had some early validation and you're kind of running it up in this lab, when you guys were seeking your initial seed funding, did you tap any resources here in Wilmington?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
How did that work?
I also, again, being pretty green to the process, I just didn't know so there were things that I'll say, if you're going to do what I did, learn early on who invests in what, right? And so I didn't know the difference in like a VC and a, PE and an angel investor. I honestly didn't know. I just saw Shark Tank. And I just knew I had an amazing idea, and I knew it wasn't quite like Shark Tank, but it had to be close, right?
Right.
And so, so I wasted a lot of energy and time. It wasn't wasted. Look, you always learn. I get it, but I wasted I could have been better directed on if I would have gotten in front of the right angel investors early on, who ultimately became our early investors, right? Is some angel investors and guys that, were able to stick their neck out there in the early days and be rewarded for it later, right? And then once I had built a little bit more than an MVP, and I have a little bit more than a napkin, math on financial plans and that sort of thing, then we moved into the later stage. So I did the seed round first, and did that mostly out of angel investments. I also was lucky enough, we launched right before COVID.
Oh, wow.
Lucky for us. So 2019, it was the official go live, the end of 2019. Well, 2020 was our famous year, right?
Yeah.
Well, perfect timing on my part, but it ended up being a really good, interesting thing for us because we, had one customer that we were able to really focus on directly. But then we eventually, came out of it. So we started in COVID and then did the seed round, and we got a grant though in COVID during the COVID time is what I was getting to, the NCID grant, which was a $50K thing, which was a ton of money for us at the time, right?
Oh yeah.
And so it really helped.
Non-dilutive.
Yeah, absolutely, and non-dilutive, exactly. And so, by the way, for anybody thinking, it's one of the best, not just resources, but processes out there for refining what you're doing and thinking through the business plan and all that kind of stuff. So that and the capital with it helped us get over that COVID hump, really. Okay. And then from there, we started getting slowly but surely some traction, and people came out of the COVID slump, and we had the attention of a real market. So that gave us, once we had a few more labs under our belt and a little bit of success, after raising yet another note round that would convert into our Series A. So we did our seed round, which is about 670, I think, and about the same amount was in a note round for our what would become our Series A, which was recently raised.
Were the initial angel investors here local in North Carolina, or?
Almost all of them were North Carolina. There were a couple, there was one in Virginia, but most of the other ones were here in North Carolina. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was going to ask you if you went up to DC and Boston and did some of the pitching up there, some of those angel groups.
I didn't go to Boston or DC. I mostly stayed southeast. I did a lot of, Atlanta, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, that sort of thing. Eventually ended up in Nashville. And it had some Texas interest, but nothing that ever. I didn't spend a lot of resources there or have a lot of good connections there. But ultimately, it ended up being Rockmont Partners out of Nashville led our Series A, which was syndicated by all the other Southeast investors. So Gray Ventures, for example, and Venture South came in on the round, as well as some others from
How much
Nashville area. Yeah.
How much ARR were you doing at the time that you closed your A round?
We were not quite at $500,000, which was early for most. For an A round, but we had real traction, and we were on that tipping point, right? And credit to the guy Brian Fox and Bo Bartholomew, the guys at Rockmont, really saw that we had something.
Yeah.
Saw that there were things we needed to clean up, of course, process-wise, but we were on our way, and they really got behind us and helped both get us connected to the industry well, get us, all of our business processes refined well, exactly, what you would hope out of a partner. So, so that's been great. Yeah.
That's always been the magic question, is when you're talking to founders, like, oh my God, I need to raise money. I need to get an A round. How much ARR do I have to have?
Yeah. We were not quite $500,000. Yeah. And then, we've fast forward, we're over $1 million now, but we've, it took us a while. That's that hard part. That's that slump. That $500,000 is a big milestone. The million's the real one, right? Yeah. For me, it felt like the real one, right?
Yeah.
So for us, that again, we passed that this year, brought on VP of sales, started getting, our message, our value prop right. And really just sharing what we're doing well, and it's working finally. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. So it's been great.
What have been some of the advantages of you launching your business and supporting it here in the Wilmington ecosystem versus another major hub like Atlanta or DC or Boston?
Yeah. Number one on my list is lifestyle. Early when we started on paper years ago. I don't remember if we talked about that or not, but we founded a company, sat on it for a while because I was doing the other conferencing gig, and my partner was doing his thing. So I sat on it for a while, right? At that time, there weren't a lot of people this was 2013. Not a lot of, there was more. It was starting, Encino was popping up, Live Oak was becoming a thing. But there weren't a ton of development talent here, and I was hoping that that would change. And fast forward to now, and there's a lot of good resources here and talent-wise. And we've proven now with COVID, we can do a lot of remote stuff well, right? And so that's to our advantage too. But for me personally, we moved here just simply for the lifestyle, and that's translated well into just culture and lifestyle for the business as a whole too. I, again, need the grounding. I can go way too deep sometimes into my projects and just get stuff done. Right. And I look up and where'd the time go, or where'd the whatever go. So I need balance, and I need the good. So whether it's spearfishing or walking the dogs or you name it, just hanging out and spending time on the beach with family, it's a good healthy environment here. And I always noticed that from day one when I would just visit Wrightsville Beach, where I met my wife here, and I just love the energy and the vibe of Wrightsville Beach and the Wilmington area. So we love it. We have no plans in changing this as our hub. We love it here. So
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. I love it here too.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. Yeah. But when you said access to talent, so you believe access to talent's getting better?
I feel like it is. Again, a lot of big the Encinos, Live Oak, Aperture. Anytime those big companies come to town and they bring with it kind of a swell of talent, and I've seen it personally. Whether or not we've taken advantage of it in full, and connected with all those resources like I could, again, I'd love to do more. But I absolutely think there's a lot more development resources here than I've ever seen. And I don't think anybody really even thinks of it as not having that now. I think it's very well known that this is kind of become a tech startup scene, for the coast. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Between Heather and what she's doing at the CIE, it's phenomenal to see this entrepreneurial ecosystem grow. And of course, what Jim Roberts does on a continuing
absolutely.
basis.
Yeah. No, it's been great. And so, we definitely want to continue to chant that message and share it, because it's true. I mean, Wilmington's great, and it's definitely continuing to grow and grow in a good, healthy, cool way too. So it's nice.
So before you chose to raise a seed and eventually an A, did you bootstrap at all? Did you put some?
I should have said that, huh? No small point. Quite a bit of founder capital. The reason, so Randy and I, we were lucky enough to be able to invest some of our own personal funds. So to date, we've put about $1 million together. Of founders capital, in addition to the other capital that we've raised to date, right? So about in a total, there's been about $4.5 million in outside capital, and then $1 million in total.
So 5.5 total.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of founders don't really get that. Because they'll bring an idea.
It's an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Because even now I know of a couple of folks that, they have great ideas, but how do you get that? How do you get it started? Right.
Yeah.
And again, I was lucky enough to, it was nerve wracking. Ask my wife at the time, but I had literally just made the decision and we did the whole thing. We prayed over it. And we were like, this is the right move. We're going to jump. And I finally walked away from the conferencing company, did this full time, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So it was comical. But no, it was great. And so it's been rewarding for us, and we've enjoyed it. So yeah.
Were there a time where you weren't drawing an income, where you left one company to do?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. For the first couple of years, I didn't take anything.
So basically you were living off one income.
Oh, 100%. My wife, again, blessed to have her and do well in real estate and really carry us through a lot of it. That gave us the ability from both her and I, previously we did well. We're able to fund that and her carry us cash flow wise through the season we're in now. And
I think that's the biggest challenge.
It's hard, right?
When you talk to founders, they're like, okay, I need access to capital. I need to put my own capital, and I need to devote my full time. But at the same time, I need income.
It's 100% the hardest thing.
Yeah, it is the hardest mode to follow. Yeah.
And there's not a blueprint, because for each person it is different. Again, we were able to use some savings, use some outside resources, and have, my wife be able to help us fund the rest of it along the way. And that was, an unfair advantage, like I say, that most people don't have. And so I appreciate that. But the biggest windfalls have come from the real partnerships and the angel investors from day one that came in, and even through the recent ones and the connections that opens up and all the other things. And so, we're very blessed, and we're appreciative. It's a really fun time for us right now, so we're loving it. Yeah.
So what are some of the lessons learned on raising capital, both seed and A, for other founders?
Okay. I think one of them we already mentioned, which was make sure you're talking to the right people at the right time. Meaning if you're going to raise your seed round, talk to angel investors, the right folks that invest in early stage, have a fund that's set up properly for that, right? If you need, $500,000 and they only write a $2 million check or $5 million, probably not the right person, right?
Right.
Now, the other part of that is I always heard, but you always hear these things, yeah. But you always hear that this is a long-term relationship conversation with all these investors. And I was like, no, y'all don't understand. This is a great idea for me. I'm getting this thing done quick. I'm going to sell, And so it was almost, you got to stop being transactional, build a relationship, stay in communication with these guys, because those guys that maybe weren't right for you at that $2 million check phase early, later might be, right? And so if they're like, hey, I remember your message. How's things now? Right. You can have those conversations, and you can have them if you stay honest, open, like you stay connected with them through that. So that's been cool to have some folks that, some of them still never invested, but I had great insights, or they connected me to other investors. Right. But then the other thing I was going to say about that is like, be cognizant of when you're approaching these investors, both you should, and they will remember what you say. So if you say, oh, it's crazy and we're killing it, we're going to make, $1 million next month. And then by then we'll be, the fly will be turned. They're going to be like, so how'd that $1 million come out? And I've had that kind of conversation a couple of times. So, it's a learning process too, it's part of accountability and learning to, use your investors as resources and all that sort of thing. So that's been a big learning thing for me. And it's been great too, but it wasn't something I was used to, for sure. So,
right. Yeah. So you have to give up not only your equity, but seats on your board, and now you have accountability to these Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and we did. And, it's, again, I welcomed it. I knew what I didn't know, and I knew that even early on with small decisions, like we made a dumb tax decision because we had bad advice, right? And it almost cost us a lot of money. It cost us money, but it didn't cost as much as it could have. And I remember, like, hey, if you need a tax advice, go to a tax guy. If you need, development advice, go to a developer, And so I was real okay with sharing, and asking for help in those areas and getting, influence and help where I could. So it was good.
Remind me again, how much money did you raise at seed and then again at A? You said it was total 4.5 total.
Yeah. So 670 in seed, and then we had some convert into, which became 3.7 or 3.6 for Series A. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty oversubscribed, but we were okay with it. Again, we had a lot of great partners.
Did you negotiate your own valuation, or did you have to accept their valuation?
We did. It was an interesting setup. So I'll talk about the structure. Originally, we had started at a valuation. Venture South was actually our lead. And I love, they're amazing, and everyone there, they got it, right? And so we loved all of, we met with a lot of their members. They were initially helping us get syndicates, and it was going well. But in that process, we ended up meeting with Rockmont, and they became our lead, which was awesome. And in that process is where we really connected with all of the other syndicates in the area. So the Southeast, so Rockmont led the round, and they put $2 million in, and the rest was led by like I said, Venture South, Gray Ventures, and some other partners in that round. The structure, though, was quite interesting. So the way we got out of the valuation hump or hurdle is we did have a valuation in mind that we and our original lead investor had kind of agreed on. Rockmont was like, I'm not sure that we're there yet. I also think you might need a little more money than you think you need. And they were right on both fronts.
Yeah.
But we structured it uniquely in that we agreed on a valuation, and then said, as long as we put some warrant protection in it. So as long as we hit our milestones by the end of the year, then you'll convert into the valuation. Otherwise, there's a deduction. And so we could, lose a few points if things convert lower than our ARR projections. Right.
Got it.
So again, remember what you're going to say and project and where your things are, because you're going to be held accountable for it. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was smart.
So that was the structure. It ended up, I was like, hold on, what? But it ended up being a good structure. Interestingly, too, we also tranched the deal. I wasn't familiar with that, but except for our seed, actually. Our initial seed grant was tranched. So we got that in stages, but this one was in 2 tranches. So we got our initial half, and then our second upon our ARR milestone.
Got it.
Yeah. So that unlocked the next.
That's very common now. Yeah. Is either milestone or tranche.
The tranche,
Yeah.
I wanted it all up front. It sure would have, and of course they wanted the opposite. So, it's so good. That's kind of the negotiating balance.
Yeah,
right?
that's one way they control risk. Yeah, making sure, okay, if I'm going to give this guy $3 million, he doesn't take it to the Bahamas.
Yeah, we'll buy it, but let's say, we'll buy it kind of. Yeah. But it worked out well for us.
How instrumental has your investor partners been with opening up connections for new customer traction?
Can't even describe the change. Just knowing the industry, being really well connected. So Brian Fox was came from FinTech. He was our one of the guys from Rockmont, and now sits on our board. Bo Bartholomew also came from the healthcare side. Perfect little combination right there. But Bo really has connected us to his whole network of, Nashville is just a hub. He came from the HCA world, and that's, a whole, everything branches, it feels like, out of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's been great to have not only his like being able to open doors for us and that sort of, but also kind of show us the way. And like, we've learned a lot from, his way of doing things. And he also runs other companies, right? And we've learned from both their experience as well as their connections. So they've been great partners, as well as same with the other syndicates. We've had a lot of good connections from the Gray Ventures side, the Venture South folks. So everybody, look, we all want to win. We all know that there's a lot of value here, and so it's been cool to see everybody really get behind it and help us in this journey. So we're super.
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Because you can get capital. if you have a good idea, you can,
eventually you
but
can.
It's the smart capital. It's the capital that can open up doors and
you got it.
New customer opportunities.
Yeah. And I appreciated we were aligned on perspectives on what you just said. Reminded me of Rockmont, and I felt aligned on perspectives of, we don't want to keep raising to raise. Like, let's not pump the valuation. Like maybe we get profitable, you know, and then we start scaling on that, right? So it's like, don't keep on raising forever and have to be in that debt mode. Like, let's get a little bit of leverage, get some profitability, show that we can scale, right? It's almost like they've done this before, right? So, so that's the path we're on, and I appreciate that. So it's the right way.
For sure. So tell me about the company culture. You as the CEO founder, I know you're balancing both fundraising, customer traction, development, R&D. But tell me a little bit about your company culture.
So we're still, you know, a small family, I feel like, in a lot of ways, but also it's a cool team because everybody brings different strengths. So, you know, again, we work out of, actually the CIE offices is where we do, I have my office in our sales guys as well.
Okay.
So we do, when I go into the office, that's where I'm headed. Because I got to get out of the house. You know?
Of course.
I'll work from the house some, but you know, I'll get cabin fever. So we work there, and it's great. And so we've had a fun time both growing the company, but also everyone kind of pitching in at this stage. You know, because we're still kind of all wearing multiple hats. You know, we're not quite to where we have every position and every stage set up, right? But that's also cool because we're all learning the pieces where others really provide value and everything. So we've got a great company culture that's growing, and as Matt's bringing on other salespeople, and Joanne, our success manager, as she's bringing on other folks for her success team, we're real picky on who we let into the fold or whatever. But we're also real happy that there's a lot of folks out there that want to do this kind of work. Like, it's a fun job. Like, it's, you know, especially if you're a lab tech and you've been behind the bench for a while and you're kind of looking for a new thing, you know, part of being a lab tech, this is true about every one of our success folks, is we from early on made it a point to only hire folks with lab experience for our success team. Meaning, if you implement with us, you're getting a lab person to do that process. It's real important for us, right? Something about those people, though, is every lab person I met, they have a heart of they will lay their life down for the job. And it's just, you know, they're not stupid overpaid. They're not like this. They do it for the love of the job. And that translates really well into this too. And so, you know, Joanne was actually one of our first customers from day one, became one of our first employees, now our success manager, now building a team for us. It's really cool to see that. And that culture really comes from her in that wave too. So I give a lot of that credit to her and her team. And as we build out the sales team, we're going to continue to share that. So it's been great. We've really appreciated it. And we've been lucky enough recently to have partnered with Dual Boot Partners.
Dual Boot.
So
Parker Wilson.
Parker, absolutely. And
she's wonderful.
I met them years ago, again, before really I thought there was anything that we could do together. And same with Todd, you know, he was super helpful in the early days of just connecting me with investors. And I remember him even slowing me down. He's like, hey, you don't have to keep promising you'll use us one day. Just, I'm trying to help you. And I was like, thank you. Okay, fine. But then it turned in, it's been amazing. So when we were scaling early, we had an offshore team that was real affordable and did well, killed it for us. But then we needed a bit more structure, a bit more what a team like Dual Boot brings. They have absolutely crushed it. And so that big R&D team, they feel like family in a lot of ways to us too.
Do they handle all your development and
currently QA? Yes. Currently we're doing all both support development and new development with that team. It's going to split. We're pulling out. This is kind of part of our new structures, that we're going to split the teams a bit for support developers and you know, traditional R&D. But yeah, they do the whole thing, and then we'll have a few of those in house now as we're moving forward to help run them. But Dual Boot's amazing. Every person on that team's been great. I
always enjoy meeting Parker.
Parker's amazing too. So shout out to Parker. Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about the technology stack. And I was going to talk about it early, but we got into the business side. But I'd love to learn more about architecture.
Oh yeah, this is where we can get nerdy, and this is fun for me. So I'm again, a software guy. So shut me up if I ramble too much. But so we're an AWS shop. Serverless is through and through. We've done most everything with TypeScript, Node, and Angular as far as the stack is concerned, and AWS Terraform, scripted stuff. Finally, we're there. So that's again a lot of the architecture that Dual Boot's helped us mature.
Right.
Has
it always been AWS based?
Yeah, it has.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even your offshore.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's to Chad's credit. Chad Hartz was he was CTO. Our CTO that is still a partner in the firm, and he knew how to build it from day one.
Right.
And so he built it with that serverless architecture in mind. And it paid off for sure. So they built upon that, and then Dual Boot has continued to actually really mature that for us.
Are you building in any features for AI or any type of modifications or recommendations using some of the
predictive? You never ask. Good grief. Jeez, dude. Yeah, this is the AI world. We got to get AI. Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
So we absolutely are. Look, you got to be thinking about it at multiple levels, at least as a leader. And so I'm knee deep, of course, in a lot of fronts. And I'll talk about a pet project I have, but as far as LabLogs is concerned, we've seen it even operationally. Like, just think of it as like a glorified secretary. You can use ChatGPT or whatever, pick your flavor of LLM for a lot of really cool stuff, right? Let's say it's a first pass on a contract. You can do a lot of that kind of stuff. That's really cool to me. It's helpful. But what I was trying to think, how does LabLogs get affected at a high level? Like, where would AI fit as far as either our internal processes or our clients' needs and that sort of thing? So we experimented on a couple fronts, and I'll spare you the details on things that didn't work. I'll tell you about the things that did work. So one of the things that we did as a quick, we'll turn that feature on, that we didn't expect to go far. I mentioned Joanne. She's our customer success manager, right? She leads our success team. And again, for whatever reason, out of that whole success team, we started using llamas for our logos, right? And it came out of the way we were tracking our clients. Every client was represented by a llama, and then once we graduate into the llama farm, it's a whole thing, still is, right? Yeah. So the reason I bring up the llama is, so for the first thing we did was we use a web-based, we're a web app, right? And so we do a web-based customer success portal for most of our first touch. So they will reach out and they'll say, hey, I'm having a problem, can't log in, can you help? Or, hey, this log doesn't look right, can you help me modify it? That's how our clients interface with our customer success team. And so we turned on a feature that's called Larry, and it's our AI agent that Larry shows up as a llama before it gets to Joanne and her team. And Larry says, hey, what's up? What do you need help with? It sounds like you can't log in. Have you tried this? And so it'll front load the first thing, and you have the ability to say, no, I just want to talk to a person, leave me alone, right?
Yeah.
We did that, and we turned it on, and it links to our knowledge base, and then we can tie all of it, right? I was like, dude, if it helps anything, do it. Right. And so we turned it on, and we had, like, in the first couple of weeks, 20% of the answers were answered by AI, by Larry. Right. Yeah. Then fast forward today, and it's at like 80% of our calls are front loaded by Larry. And as we document, and he learns more and more and more. Right. So that's one practical way. Where we took it further was the part I was most excited about. So we've recently done some work on our implementation side. So also with the success team. For us, our big lift on launching, right? We're a software company. We want people to be up and running and profitable, right? The bottleneck is that implementation. So get them through that phase as quickly as possible so that they're now a paying customer, and it's not pulling from our resources. How can we do that? Where can we focus AI to help us in that process? So we started breaking down our processes and where we think we could see impact. And the biggest win is on our ingestion point. So right now, if you think about, if you used the piece of paper on the table there as a paper log in the lab, and you have to get that to me, what are you doing? They're literally scanning logs and sending them to us. Sometimes they'll send us a PDF version, whatever, right? That process we've always taken electronically, and our success team would go through. They say, oh, you have this, we already have that. Oh, we don't have that instrument, we'll add it. That's kind of the process we do behind the scenes. We used AI for that, and it has absolutely started to be a game changer. Yeah. So, but it goes beyond just, hey, we can mirror what we're doing now and make it faster, right? So yes, we can take the logs AI can scan it probably better than a human, give you a few choices. It can link to our database and say, hey, we know from these choices. But we even took it a step further. We're like, hey, let's zoom out. If you're doing that on the front end, right, then AI should also be able to take a pause, right, as another agent and say, let's look first to see if this is really the right way they're even supposed to be doing it, and refer to the compliance bodies, the manufacturer's recommendations, where all this stuff is defined anyway. And so that's where we're headed now. So we're trying to make a very canonical compliance database, and that's where we're headed with this. We already have most of it anyway. It's how do we normalize that data?
Right.
I've kicked that normalization can down the road for so long, and now we have AI to help us. I'm like, perfect. Right. So that's one of those beautiful things that AI is absolutely changing the game for us.
Yeah. Yes. In addition, not only recommending different instruments. Oh, you don't have this instrument, but your competitor does. Or most people in this area have this instrument. You should buy one.
Or take it a step further. Hey, there's an FDA recall. Do you realize? Do the vendors have a platform to push out notifications?
Yeah.
They do now, right? And that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We're excited about it.
So what's the future look like for LabLogs?
So we're looking for partners. Everything. I've always had the dream that I could one day stand in front of somebody and say, look what I've done with this. Like, I didn't even know what I was doing, and look what we did. Like, imagine what you could do with your resources, right? That's the dream. So that day will come, and there's a lot of partners that I feel like would be a good potential exit for us. And but you think either folks that are already in the market is my point. So folks, we could go door knock in healthcare and knock on it all 365,000 CLIA certified labs, or we can partner with folks that are already in that space, and that's what we're doing now. So we're partnering with folks that are either connected at the instrument level, like connecting to the devices. The other side of that portion we don't really do. Well, this is a good compliance layer for them, right? The manufacturers themselves, the instrument manufacturers, there's a lot of reasons for you maintaining your equipment, and our stuff is not just what you can track, but all the things you can't track, right? So there's a lot of potential there. But right now, what we're trying to do is say, hey, there is so much green space. Like this, we've finally figured out the model. We know that people not only pay for it, but they'll keep paying for it, like almost no churn, right?
Right.
And it's very repeatable and profitable. So if we can get it moving, and so our big go-to-market strategy is, we've seen the big wins from the big IDNs, right? So the go-to-market strategy, you get in with the big acute core labs, and then you crush it for them, and that's what we've done. And they see the need at standardizing their whole suite, and then it rolls out even to their clinics. So our big thing now is like point-of-care clinics and walk-in things that we all go to, like a testosterone clinic or you name it, med walk-in. Those are all now under our umbrella as well, because patient testing, right? And so we're seeing that people who have these core labs also own these clinics, and so that's also now another part of their umbrella that they're using LabLogs for as far as tracking. So that's where it's headed for sure. Is we just want to be the one-stop shop for compliance and really be the place that you track all of that.
Well, it sounds like you found a really nice niche.
Yeah.
And
it's cool.
It executed really well.
Yeah.
How many customers do you have, and where are they in the United States?
Yeah. We're mostly spread out here in the U.S. So we have a couple hundred labs across the U.S. From most of it, surprisingly, came from. There's a lot of cancer labs up in the Northwest and Seattle and that kind of area. We have a ton of clients in that area. A lot of Texas, a lot of New York, obviously. No surprise in the Southeast. Our home. Truly spread out. We have a couple offshore in some other countries, and we're heading in that direction. But we know this world now, trying not to get too distracted by the offshore stuff, but there's obvious reasons to do that. Same needs, different.
I would imagine the instrument companies themselves, the manufacturers, would also want to promote using you for data collection and recalls and adjustments and things like that.
For sure. Exactly. That's the thought. And well, it's not just the thought. I mean, we've had interest, and we've had conversations with all, and everybody wants data. Everybody wants to be able to have access to it. And so how can we all get this data into one central location? That's kind of what we're all trying to figure out. And, we have part of the solution. And so we're happy to be part of that.
That's great.
Yeah.
So if you had to offer one piece of advice to a founder sitting there thinking about an idea, either SaaS or health tech or whatever, what would that be?
Find good partners. honestly, your partners are somebody that are with you for a long time, right? And it makes or breaks it for you, in my opinion. Like I've been blessed to have really good folks that have walked with me, not just through the business side, but even at a personal level. Like you know, when you do something like a startup, you're with these folks for a while, and so you know, finding good people that you can trust and partner with early on, and that can also just help you sanity check a lot of your stuff. You know, I can get like, I have all kinds of ideas, right? Somebody needs to pull me down by the ankles sometimes, you know, so that helps. But yeah, partners, I think is really huge in finding the right partners and getting that set up from the get-go. Because when it comes down to it, somebody's going to be pulling the weight, you know, you gotta
surround yourself with like-minded people.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And where would you recommend folks to meet folks like that?
We're coming full circle, aren't we?
Yeah.
Honestly, this really is where I think things like Jim Roberts events, the CIE event, all these networking events here locally, even especially the Triangle has a lot too. That's where you start connecting with folks. That's where you start getting your head up and you're reminded of getting a touch for the pulse of the community, and not just the community, but the industry too, right? So yeah, that's 100% key.
We talked about looking ahead for your business, but what are you doing outside of your business? I know you talked about astrophotography and
yes, very passion projects. I have a couple. Astrophotography has always been literally a dream of mine as a kid. So as a kid, my dad got me into astronomy magazine, right? And so I just look at the stars and all that stuff and map and just be like, wow, what in the world? But in the back, there were these telescopes that I would always look at and be like, man, one day, you know, because they were so expensive, like thousands of dollars, and probably for telescopes that aren't even close to what they are now, right?
Yeah.
But I just remember, and then, you know, fast forward to today, my son's a baseball player, that he pitches for Hoggard. That process of baseball, we did motocross together, we did skating together, that gave me excuses to buy a camera, get into photography. And when I finally got into that route, that led to astrophotography, which was a whole wormhole of using telescopes now for doing long exposure, you know, multi-hour photography. And that's a cool passion of mine. But it's certainly its own science and everything else. It's just a cool mystery. Aside from that, we're also, I told you, watermen. You know, we do a lot of, spend a lot of time on the water, whether it's, you know, just going and doing our daily walks at Lee Island on, you know, on the beach, or now spearfishing. We do a lot of spearfishing, and my son's getting into that recently too, and his buddy. So that's fun.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say, as far as a passion project, is this recent thing that I'll go ahead and spoil. It's called Stardot. And this is a completely different thing. I haven't even told you about this, so I'll share it with you now. But it's an AI project of mine. And so the thought is, these agents and language models are here to stay. And, you know, with compliance being top of mind on mine, how do we get that compliance and safety applied to the interaction of our LLMs with our APIs? Right. Because APIs were not built with this in mind. They were built with you and I accessing APIs, or another API accessing an API, right? And so there's a lot of tools built on protecting that. And I don't see any good frameworks for fully protecting your interaction with your agents interacting with your APIs. There are some things like MCP and some of those other technologies that formalize the calls, but it doesn't do anything instead of audit tracing, traceability, you know, true protection in that, guidelines in that, guardrails in that regard, I should say. So Stardot is my attempt at formalizing a standard, honestly, of that. So it's basically a light JSON layer for defining your interaction with an API if you're an LLM. So you can't come through my APIs unless we know what your profile is, what your expected output's going to be. What are your potential hallucinations and how do we protect against them? Don't spend too much money on credits and spin out. So, and also in that process, do you separate it out protectively? So huge undertaking, but really cool thought. So our engineers have started using this internally as a pet project. And our goal is to roll it out into something that honestly, it's just more of a standard that we think could help others and see where it goes.
Yeah, sounds cool.
And it's pretty cool. It's been really fun. So it's star.ai right now is where we're putting some of the documentation and we're playing with it.
Does your son also share the same passion with technology?
Man, I've tried. With tech, but not with computer, not with coding. It's not there for him. No, he's baseball, all sports, he's connected in other ways. It's not a computer thing for him. Yeah.
What colleges is he thinking about?
Wherever will let him pitch.
Okay.
Yeah, he's full on in baseball right now.
So he wants to play baseball.
He would love to. Yeah. But he's open to it. Last night we were talking about college, and he said he wanted to go to Florida. And me and his mom looked at each other like. I was like, well, you better be careful because she'll follow you, and I don't want to go to Florida. So we were joking about that. But we'll see. He's a junior this year, so he's figuring it out.
Yeah, my daughter's a junior, and she plays volleyball.
Okay.
She's been recruited by a few schools.
I mean, he'd love to go to state, or he's talked about ECU. Yeah. Him and his buddies. We'll see.
Does he participate in the camps? Because I think with volleyball, you have to go to the camps.
He's done some of the baseball ones. Yeah. Yeah, he's done them over the year. Yeah.
That's cool. Did you play baseball in high school or?
Well, I played in I played when I was younger, but I didn't really grow physically till way later. I hit my growth spurt after high school. So I loved baseball. I wasn't good at it though. Yeah. So it was cool when he got into it because I always loved the sport, knew a lot about it. He was actually good at it. I was like, oh, this is cool. So yeah, we've been doing baseball since he was 8 or 9 or so. Right. So it's been super fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed meeting you today and getting to know you personally.
Same.
And learning more about your business. And
likewise. Yeah.
And obviously we'll be rooting for you guys on the sideline from here on out on fundraising and expansion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Definitely. Thanks for having me. And thanks for Jim for connecting us, of course.
Absolutely. Good old Jim.
Yeah, that's right. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, if there's anything I can do to help, reach out. Let me know.
Okay. 100%. Thanks. Again.
Amplified CEO is produced by Topsail Insider, edited by Jim Mendes-Pouget, and sponsored by Cape Fear Ventures. For more information about Amplified CEO, Richard Stroupe, or Cape Fear Ventures, please contact Christa at 910-800-0111 or Christa at topsailinsider.com.